What is going on, everybody? Man, Micah's back with another video. One of the biggest changes I wanted to do in terms of what I've been using is make the switch. I don't want to say technically back to Apple, but yes, Apple. Now, some of you guys who've been following the channel for a while know that I originally have always been Android. The recency in technology has kind of plateaued in terms of everything being really good. Samsung just being the king of the hill. But with the likes of Android 14 coming, and you could even argue 13, even though 13 really helped revitalize Android 12 with the whole Material You thing, I still felt like Android really hadn't made a lot of changes in terms of improvements or drastic leaps in features like they did in the past. And it makes sense because everything has just gotten so good now. And so when WWDC 23 rolled around and they showed off iOS 17, it basically convinced me to try them out again long term. Since iOS 14, my interest had been repiqued and intrigued of Apple, but iOS 17 really sold me, and so therefore I grabbed me an iPhone 14 Pro, not the Pro Max. I was tempted to, but because I had been using the big phone with Samsung for so long now, I was like, you know what, let me try something completely different. And even though I still like the Max because my wife has one, she has it in the color I also like in terms of the silver, I went with the space black, or is it midnight black or space black, I believe, for the iPhone 14 Pro, and I went with the smaller model because why not? Let's try a different size phone out, just a completely new experience. And that's what we're doing today with the iPhone 14 Pro. And as you guys see by the title, my first impressions, 20 of them, all grouped together. Meaning, is it even? Is it 10 and 10 in terms of my likes and dislikes? Or is one coming out ahead of the other? You guys will be in for the surprise. But if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys ignite the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that my videos, so that way we can sit back, check, see what's cracking, and you guys will know whether or not I stick with Apple truly for the long term. So let's get into the dislikes first, because that's going to set the precedent in terms of where am I at since being back with Apple. And the first dislike, I'm in my notes list. Yes, I'm using Apple Notes. I do still use Google Keep, of course, but for this video and for the purposes of really diving into the ecosystem and the atmosphere of Apple, let's start by using Apple Notes for this discussion, right? First thing is the settings, locations for apps. Meaning you have to always go back to settings to really do a lot of playing around for the app, for each individual app. The reason why I don't like that is because if I'm in the app and I want to make changes, I should be able to just make the changes within the app. Now, the caveat to that, of course, is it can make the app a little bit more cumbersome in terms of utilizing the screen real estate that you have with, you know, the hamburger menu or the settings menu. But I also noticed a lot of apps in the world of Apple use the bottom half of the screen to really navigate, which is very nice. So I don't think it would really be harmful if settings could be baked into the app. But I always having to run back to settings, at least you know to go back to the settings, scroll and find your app. But it does take more time to do that as opposed to what we experience with Android, where each app has its own settings and you can, while you're in the app, alter the app to your liking. I wish that we could get that with Apple, but I definitely don't think that's going to change. But that is the first dislike, is the settings location for apps. Dislike number 2, auto brightness location. That should be part of the display and brightness section. It should not be in accessibility. That should be an option that you can toggle on and off to make the use or best use of your screen. Now, one thing that I've noticed since using auto brightness is it doesn't get as bright as I would like it to. It doesn't really seem to utilize the screen brightness, the nits that Apple provides for the device. But you also don't blind yourself in your various situations, because now you would have to be a creature of habit to manually change your brightness at night before going to bed, and when you wake up, changing the brightness manually. Is it a problem? Not necessarily, because the control center is kind of right there at the swipe of your hands, but nonetheless, auto brightness should be part of the display and brightness section, not accessibility, because you have to search for it otherwise, because you probably wouldn't think to look in accessibility for auto brightness. Come on, Apple. Now, dislike number 3 is a notification panel, and of course that's going to be a dislike from us Android people. Now, what about the notification panel or notification shade or notification center do I not like? Is the fact that it's on the left upper corner of the phone. That's where you have to access a notification shade. If it's not going from your lock screen, you have to reach all the way across the phone, and thankfully I have the Pro, so it's a lot easier. But you have to operate from swiping way over there just to swipe down. That's something I don't necessarily like. Now, why is that? Because on Android, especially with Samsung and most OEMs at this point, there is the option in settings to have your notification be able to just swipe down on your home screen. Now, I'm not saying the location up there is bad. Unfortunately, if you are doing stuff and you have to check your notification, you do have to swipe up there to the left, because the right side of the screen is for your control center. But if you're on your home screen, you should be able to just swipe down your home screen, and instead of spotlight search popping up, you should be able to have the option to swipe down for your notification shade. And since they've added the spotlight feature to the home screen, meaning you can have a search icon or search button right there on your home screen, you don't lose the access to spotlight search, while still adding the option and customization to swipe down on your home screen to access your notification panel. So that is dislike number 3, is a notification panel. And I would say, as a sub dislike, is the fact that you have to turn off notifications for a ton of stuff when you really don't need notifications, a lot of that, and you kind of start realizing that dealing with an Apple device, especially with how being able to try to swipe away from the notification still ends up in the notification shade. Like when it pops up on your phone, you think you can just swipe down and swipe down again and make it go away, or swipe up and make it go. No, it goes right to the notification center where you still have to play with it. That's another sub dislike of the dislike. I don't count that as a full dislike. So that's 3 dislikes so far. Now, dislike number 4 is the discovery feed. When you're on your home screen, you swipe to your right basically to access the left page, the leftmost page. The reason why I don't like it that well is because at the bottom, where you can have like a customized list of things you can't have Google Assistant higher. It has to only be part of that customization, and there's a limited amount of apps that can actually be part of that customization. Now, you can have your Apple News or whatever other stuff you want to have, photos, clocks, sleep, fitness tracking widgets and all that type of stuff, but you can't have certain apps unless it's part of that at the bottom. And I do have Google Assistant on here, but we will get into that discussion in a little bit. So, discovery feed is dislike number 4. Dislike number 5 is screenshot mishaps. Now, it doesn't necessarily happen often, because I think maybe they actually changed how you screenshot. I can't remember, because again, I was only here briefly before in the past, but I thought maybe it was power and volume down that caused screenshot mishaps. But I even accidentally triggered it with the power button and the screen up. I triggered it by accident. So thankfully, I haven't had too many of those, but yes, that does happen, or has happened since it's in my very brief 1 week use of the iPhone 14 Pro. Dislike number 6 is lock screen customization limits. So because of focus, it kind of throws off one of your lock screen options. It won't even let you really change the wallpapers outside of the pre-designated ones by Apple. But in terms of the customizations, it's both from a wallpaper perspective. The wallpapers you get with Apple, if you do get someone Apple, you can't really access them that easily, or you have to use that specific lock screen feature or option that is available with the pre-installed. But then the other thing is, which I guess isn't necessarily that bad, you know, so I guess I could tailor back my dislike just to what I just said. And of course the depth effect, I wish that would still work despite having widgets. I thought maybe that would be addressed between all the 0.1, 0.2 through soon to be 0.6, and if you're watching this way after that, you know, maybe even through iOS 17. But yes, no, that has not been addressed. It's still there. So you can't use widgets with the depth effect for wallpapers. And I do wish it would recognize some wallpapers a little bit better to use the depth effect on, because I do have some wallpapers throughout time that I think could really use that depth effect, but it just doesn't. It really primarily works with people, or if the wallpaper has enough separation in terms of the art and design, it will choose that. I've had a Spider-Man one that a Spider-Man a photo that I took within the game that really uses the depth effect well, and it's probably because it recognizes Spider-Man as a person, so that's why it's giving me that separation. But that is a slight dislike. And then dislike number 7 is customization in general. And of course, it's gonna come from a guy on Android, where you can customize almost every nook and cranny to your desire. And although Apple has slowly been allowing that, it still kind of feels stifling coming from Android and what I could customize in general. Now, I say that all to say that is one of my most favorite likes. As you see, there was only 7 dislikes, meaning a lot of my likes, or my likes, are outweighing the dislikes, which means so far so good in terms of my journey in the world of Apple. And this is a great opportunity to inform you guys that if you guys haven't already, make sure to like the like button, subscribe to the channel, the notification bell so my videos. So sit back, relax, see what's cracking. And the reason why I'm leading with customization in terms of my likes is because that's what pulled me back over here. The posters, if you will, that Apple introduced with iOS 17. Basically your name cards and sharing them, name drop, right? Those type of situations, customization is what really kind of pulled me over to trying them out again, along with the lock screen customizations, the allowance of widgets now, and the interactive widgets that is showing up with iOS 17. Some, of course, we've been had on Android, but that helps with the transition from Android to Apple, being able to do certain things like that, which you would think is pretty easy, but nonetheless is now here in the world of Apple. Customization is very key, and I like that. And we have people who are developers that have gotten really good with widgets that you can use. I use Widgie. My wife uses Widgetsmith. I might try a couple Widgetsmiths widgets, but I've been able to use that, and that's how I've been able to get a nice customized lock screen that kind of gives me a taste as to Android, but has that nice finish and polish of Apple on it that really kind of gives it a little bit of extra elegance, if you will. And that's something that I actually appreciate. Customization is actually pretty good with Apple. Like number 2 is widgets in general. Again, the widgets they just look better than Android, and I don't know what that is. You could argue Samsung's widgets look good, probably the best ones on Android, because Google's don't even necessarily make sense, but I guess because it's Google and it's googly, that it has a little extra level of playfulness that I don't necessarily like. Samsung, I like Samsung's, and with Apple just takes up that much more in terms of its refinedness, and I like that about their widgets, both their widgets as well as the world of customizable widgets in the App Store. And as again, as I mentioned, Widgie and Widgetsmith. Like number 3 is the alarms. Now you can, I couldn't even say you can do that. You can do that within the calendar on Samsung, with Samsung's calendar and maybe Google's calendar, but I know, like, if you want to delete an activity or an event, it'll ask you just this one and the future ones, all of them all together. Well, similarly with alarms, especially if in tandem with your sleep mode, modes, baby. When your alarm clock pops up on the screen, it lets you know you have an alarm clock at this time, whatever. If you click on it to change it, it'll ask you, do you want to just change it this one time, or do you want to change it going forward? I love that, because that means you can make on-the-fly adjustments to your alarm without affecting your routine. And I think that was very smart on Apple to allow that option for alarms. Like number 4, the dynamic island. Name could use a little bit more. I just call it the DI now. I don't even go dynamic island all the way, but I love the dynamic island and what it has brought to Apple in terms of, again, additional customization from the perspective of enhanced app usage without having to suck up your whole screen. And with maps, Google Maps, media players, your AirPods showing up there, you know, calls, you name it. Live activities, which is a sub-like of this DI section. But live activities, I was able to keep up with a whole game and not even have to watch it. They give you like play-by-play activity, and it is literally like live, watching the time countdown as buckets are getting scored. I was able to basically watch one game of the Nuggets Heat finals match all through live activities. I like that. Good job, Apple, with the live activities, and being able to see how you can basically watch several other games with live activities really changes how you interact with sports in particular as well, because let's say you don't have access to watch a game in a different state, you can with live activities, and it does feel like you have a little bit more involvement with that game. Like number, what am I on? 6, Siri. I told you we're gonna get back to Siri. This is not a dislike. I think Siri has actually improved since my usage. Whenever you try to ask a question that you know Google Assistant will answer, such as asking about somebody, it fails, I think, in that realm. But then I have the option to swipe over to Google Assistant to then get access to Google. But in terms of on the phone or on demand tasks, like utilizing Apple Home, which was relatively easy to set up, dealing with your smart lights, I would say just simple things that you want to do on the phone. Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? I love it. And the fact that iOS 17 is also dropping the need for hey, which you could say, yes, they are learning a thing or two from Google, and you just utter the word, you get that option to really use Siri in a different way. So I like that Siri is actually came up since or grown up since I've been gone, if you will. So Siri is actually alike and very responsive, really responsive. I was timing, and you know, Google has its moments, but for the most part, Siri seemed like it was responding faster than Google Assistant. So pretty interesting from that perspective. Like number 7, YouTube picture-in-picture, and really picture-in-picture in general, because I think it arguably may work even more in more use cases than Google's own picture-in-picture. But I like how you can, of course, swipe out of the app, and then the window is floating. You can change the size. Of course, I use it as full as I can. You can swipe it up, swipe it down. But what I really like is you can swipe it away to the side and then draw it back out. If you need to look at information, or if you were doing something utilizing the screen differently, if you just want to listen to it real quick, you swipe the media player away and then bring it back, and there you go, having your video right there on top of whatever activity you have going on. And then once you click it again and hit the right corner to blow it back up, it takes you right back into the app. I like that. The slight hiccup with it though is like with Amazon Prime Video, it is a little janky when it tries to register itself back in position, and I think Max is the same way, or HBO Max, formerly known as. It's a little slight jank and pause in terms of continuing playback. YouTube, no problems. It plays back with no problems. But I like the picture-in-picture that Apple has now included for the last 2 software updates now, I think. Working very, very well. And then the next like, because at this point the likes are outdoing the dislikes, Apple News feels very clean and classy, sophisticated. I like the look. Google News looks good too. I use both. I do use both of them. They give me different kinds of information, which is good. They're not necessarily copying each other in terms of the type of information or news articles that they display to you. But I like the refined look. Again, everything seems so refined, smooth, just elevated. And I like that about Apple News. App optimization in general, of course. How could we not include that in the realm of Apple? Developers prefer Apple. Even Google's own developers prefer Apple over their own apps. And everything has like that subtle one-up on Android apps, or they just work it seems like better. And then you do see and feel the smoothness, the fluidity and touch and responsiveness when it comes to the apps or what you're doing on the phone. All that is being well managed so far in the iPhone 14 Pro. By battery life. My battery life in the 14 Pro is comparable to my S23 Ultra for my use, and I do use my phone quite a lot. Like, again, being at work, I'm listening to YouTube, or I'm listening to podcasts, or I'm listening to some with video being played, essentially throughout the whole time, because I'm mainly listening, but I still have it pulled up on my phone, video playing, and I'm still getting like 9 to 10 hours of screen time, 11 hours of screen time on a consistent basis, with anywhere between, you could say, 5% and like 20%. But still, I'm able to get that kind of screen time and activity, both from the perspective of doing that, as well as browsing the likes of Twitter and Instagram and brief moments on TikTok and reading articles, and then driving home listening to a podcast back home. I'm getting all that out on one charge before getting home, and then probably plugging it on a charger or trying to ink out as much as I can, so that way once I put it on the charger, I don't have to take it back off, because I try to just keep it to one charge cycle a day. But the battery life has been amazing, as you guys probably saw throughout my screenshots. And all of that leads down to consistency. Consistent battery life, consistent use, consistent motion with ProMotion with the iPhone 14 Pro. Something that I knew was going to be the case, but I didn't really know how much was going to be the case coming back. And this time, instead of having a 10R, I got me a beast in terms of the Pro, and I've been loving it. It has been super solid, and that follows up with, last but not least, the hardware. Something that really has been, grabbed my attention. I like touching the phone, feeling on it. The handability of the iPhone 14 Pro is beautiful, because it's 6.1 inches, but and it feels delightful in the hand. Of course, black. The one thing I don't necessarily care for is the rails, because although they're black, they're not matte, so they actually arguably show more fingerprint smudges than like the likes of the silver one that my wife has. The cameras, barely used them so far. The last week I've been at work, really haven't had a lot of time to use the cameras. I've used them to do some video recording. Yeah, I did shoot one of my shorts for the speaking mag case for the AirPods Pro 2nd Gen, because most likely this video came out after all those little videos that I did. Or matter of fact, this video came out and then those things subsequently probably dropped, now that I think about it. But yes, I just amazing. And really, I say all that to say, since it is still part of hardware, but it is the consistency and the optimization of apps, is, as I just mentioned, the AirPods Pro 2nd generation boxed in my speaking mag case. I did not think I was gonna like these like that, but I ended up liking these like that. I surprised myself at how much I really enjoy using these. Get arguably very decent battery life out of these. I won't even say decent, good battery life. I'm getting 6 to 7 hours of battery life out of these, and I use transparent mode most of the day. In comparison to the Pixel Buds Pro and the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro, I would say these arguably sound a little bit better than those. And it is very surprising. No, I'm not just in the moment. I noticed it when I put these in my ear, and that these fit in my ear better than those, which is crazy, right? I missed the days of the Galaxy Buds with wingtips, but having the small earpiece and the extra small earpiece really goes to fitting these in the ear way more comfortably and less wiggle from the pods. And the Apple and their accessories, I mean, what else to say? The iPad, soon I'll have one. But the iPad, the MacBooks, the Mac Pros, the Mac Studios, you know what I'm saying? Like, the list goes on and on in terms of the interconnectivity of the Apple ecosystem that I'm very much so looking forward to. And of course, I did not forget about the Apple Watch, because I hear that really sells and seals the deal on your Apple experience between the pods, the phone, and the watch. For me, it's gonna be the iPad because that's what I'm gonna be editing on. Final Cut's here, DaVinci's here. There's another color grading app from Moment that I may actually be able to try and use and see if I care for it. I'm excited from that perspective. And the entry point with the phone, Apple knows what they're doing, and that's why they're winning, they're succeeding. You know, and it's no shot, no knock at Android, because I still love Android. I'm an Android user, but I'm thoroughly enjoying my experience with the iPhone 14 Pro. So let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think about the 14 Pro, some of my likes and dislikes. What are yours? Do you like the accessories that they drop? Are you hoping to see big steps when it comes to their vision in total? I mean, you know, we got the Vision Pro dropping in 2024. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. But again, as always, if you guys haven't already, make sure to like the like button, subscribe to the channel, the notification bell so I wouldn't miss my videos. So that way, sit back, see what's cracking. With your man Micah signing out to the next video. Wait, fool.